Hi.
Hello.
I think I just wanted to say that it was challenging, but I really enjoyed the 1 o'clock sitting together.
Yeah.
I could sense, like, my face and my body was tense at the beginning,
Yeah.
and it felt a little bit like confrontation. I'm not sure, but
Yep.
it's
That's the right word. That's
it's
definitely the right word.
but yeah, and also it turned out that I had also a mirror next where I was sitting, so I could see also myself, like, very tense.
Right.
And yeah, so that was, and having the time, nearly 1 hour, to just experience, the all of it, and then the change slowly. It takes time, for
It
the
does. It does. That's what I wanted to convey was the patience needed
yeah.
just to have that melting, that softening happen.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so it was, and also I could experience, the need to control, like the self, the small me is like, was just there, and like the need to control, and it was very strong, like, the life, maybe not life death completely, but this kind of like, and I think that's why, the tension also just
Yeah.
tries to control. So that was really interesting. That was really, and also at the same time, having someone who is just there, it felt like, unconditional love with,
Yeah.
all my energy, trying, to control and, tense, and not, even though, I like, judgment about, how I am, and all of that.
All of it.
All of that, yeah.
You have precisely described exactly as I hoped would be experienced. Not easy, I understand,
Mm.
but also very, very starkly clarifying of, oh, okay, this is what we're dealing with here. This is what we're dealing with. And you see through quite, I mean, it takes a little bit of time, but quite quickly. We're sat for less than an hour, really, just about an hour. You see, that's an hour of your life, right? It's not a long time, just an hour. You see it, you go, oh, wow, okay.
Mm.
Here's where the leftover remnants of what is in my system that I'm struggling with, that maybe I don't see so clearly on a day-to-day basis. And there's nowhere to hide. When you're met with that unconditionality of just being seen and seeing, there's nowhere to hide. And there's the confronting. That's really confronting. It's hard to stay with that. It is. It burns everything.
Mm.
But it's really powerful. And I really appreciate your earnestness and being willing to sit in that fire, because it is that. It does take that.
Mm.
And everyone. So I was really impressed with the way that everyone really met what was being pointed to earlier.
Mm. It was powerful, but also was, especially at the end, like, very lovely. Like, if someone is there to be with, this confrontation in just with love. There's no other need for that.
Yeah.
And this is what I think we're missing often in life, especially as a children. Like, we it's just naturally we just want to rebel and confront,
Yeah.
and there is no that respond. Um, yeah. So that was, yeah. It's, and also, like, being seen. We all want to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah. All parts of us.
All parts of
There's
us.
nothing more healing, I feel.
Mm.
And the healing as in to bring back to wholeness
Mm.
when there is no part of us that needs to be rejected, that the entirety of who and what we are can be there and is accepted and loved unconditionally without even a slither of doubt that you can be just as you are.
Yeah, so that was very powerful, and at the end, like even my system relaxed and my belly softened. So it was like,
Yeah.
okay, it's like, okay, I don't have to. I think just seeing, how the body and the system tries to control, and there was compassion for that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And also seeing that when there is a relaxing down, a softening down, that actually the world doesn't end, that
No.
we're okay. And actually the very opposite is then known. I'm okay here. Even when I let go of that tight sense of control and it just softens. First of all, we look around, okay, is this all going to be, is this okay? Is this safe to do this? And yet, what we find is all is well. Despite myself, despite my conditioned insistence that I have to be in control, actually all is well.
Yeah, so that was the experience, and it was very lovely, and also was like compassion that that there was reason why system is that way,
Yeah.
and people in the world are often as tense, and interaction are very tense.
Yeah. This is the birth of compassion, where we can have clarity of our own mechanisms. We can also have clarity of mechanisms of all, and vice versa. And so compassion is incomplete if it doesn't have that wholeness view to it, which is, if I'm struggling with this, that they are also, and if they're struggling with this, actually I am also struggling with some aspect of this as well.
Yeah, so I just wish for more experience like that, being met in that way. It was lovely. Thank you so much.
Good. It's was a risk for me. I think I said this a couple of days ago when I did something similar, but this was even one step further, if you noticed, because I was like, right, we're going to drop everything. And there's nothing to hold on to. There's nothing to look forward to. There's nowhere to sort of land, let's say, except for in the starkness of that moment. And it's funny, I feel the draw more and more to this, and I have done for many, many months now. And I suspect that that's the direction that life is pulling me. Transmissions, there is still a subtle compromise. No, that's not the right word, but you'll know what I mean when I get there. To the duality, the sense of transmission, and I know I speak constantly of there is no duality. There's no me giving to you, but even in the word transmission, subtly reinforces that, or it can do. And so the direction I feel myself and the work that I'm doing moving in is more in this vein, is more in Vedic tradition. They would call that something like Darshan, or sitting in presence. The reason why I want to sort of drop a lot of these notions of on and offness of it all is because I want you all to recognize that this is not something you don't have access to and then you do have access to. This is not something that somehow, I've got and you don't. All of those are conceptions that are false. And so sitting like that together, you're able to see that. You're able to see that that light that is staring back at you is the same light that you are staring through as well. And that is you. You are that. That clarity that is seen is accessible to you. It's not found elsewhere. The environment that we sort of sat within earlier enlivened that. And that's how the transmissions are too. It enlivens that, yes. It brings focus, it brings clarity, it brings a louder attention, let's call it, intention and attention. But ultimately, that divine light is not outside of you. And that's really, really important to know.
Yeah, it felt like it was like pushed back on me, you know,
Yeah.
you know, the experience. So it didn't feel like it was just, you know, this is it. This is, you know, yeah. Yeah, and very direct. It sounds direct experience of presence, but very direct. Like there's no, yeah. It was in a way pushed back, which maybe I didn't like at the beginning.
Yes. 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 That is
Yeah.
important to know. And
Mm.
I'm going to say that to everyone that's gathered here today, that you don't like that at the beginning.
Mm.
That's not an incorrect experience, because it's shining a light on the falsity of who you think you are.
Okay.
So, of course, it feels uncomfortable,
Mhm.
but you stick with it. And the falsity of who you believe yourself is what goes, and what you're left with
Mhm.
is your true self.
Yeah. It was more clarity what left. And it
Yes.
was, yeah. Okay. So that was, yeah, at the beginning it was, I didn't like it, but then when I stayed, it's kind of softened and transformed. There was some kind of insights, whatever, and at the end it was more clarity, like okay. And also it's something about the eyes that um, we can look around, but we're looking for.
Yes. We're so in most sight, let's say, where it's all about the object,
Yeah.
not the subject, not the looking.
Okay.
It's about what we're looking at. And so what we were doing today was not paying attention to the object, because, as I said, it's not the, you notice the me starts to melt, the you starts to melt, or rather
Mm.
the you starts to melt, the me starts to melt, from your perspective at least. And so there's no me and you, there's no object to be focused on at that moment.
Mm.
It's just seeing is being attended to.
Mm. Well, yeah, that's yeah, that was powerful, and eyes are in that sense can be distraction, but at the same time,
Yeah.
if we look, yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
something can escape through the eyes, but sometimes we don't have place to escape.
Yes, and if you notice, there was a few times earlier, in that session where, and I was just, because I could feel the energy of you all, and sometimes I could feel there was, some restlessness, or there was going into
Mm.
thoughts of some people,
Mhm.
so there was a couple of times where I just guided people back to being present, because what you notice is you can very much be seeing and yet not really be seeing, like you're in your
Mhm.
thoughts.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then as soon as you notice that, you then come back to just seeing,
Yeah.
just being with
Yeah.
presence. And so it's important to be able to catch that and to be able to notice that. And again, it's never about beating oneself up about, oh, I've been caught in thought. That's more of the same thought. That's irrelevant. But it is what happens when there is an aha moment of, I'm lost. I'm not actually seeing right now. I'm
Mhm.
lost in thought, and I'm not seeing that I'm lost in thought. That moment comes where I see it, and there's the attention is drawn back to the innocent seeing, the presence.
Yeah, there is tiredness also. There's like, a little bit falling asleep and
Yeah,
those
yeah,
things. Especially it's very warm day here, which
yeah.
is lovely.
Yes, it sort of feels relaxing, and yes,
Yeah.
drawn into that sleepiness, and that's okay if that happens. It's always okay if that happens.
Mm.
But equally, when there is a coming around, let's say, maybe a yawn,
Mm.
maybe the eyes close for a moment, and then there's a refresh as the eyes open again.
Mm.
So it's always okay if there's a sort of a sleepiness that comes over the body. But there's always that moment of, here I am again. Which is why I said it, this is not about like sort of a staring contest of like, right,
No. Yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, and that's, that's also, even though it's like online, it still works somehow, even though, I think it's easier to switch off in that sense, if someone is tired and,
Yeah.
but it worked. Yeah. Yeah, it worked.
Yeah. It's all, like at the end of the day, you can switch your camera off, you can get offline. Like, if this is not something you want to participate in, that's totally fine. There's no judgment of that. But equally, there is a lot to be gained by allowing yourself to surrender to that process. And as you've beautifully articulated today, there's a lot to be gained from that, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was like, yeah, unconditional, like love, and it was okay to be angry, it was okay to be frustrated, it was okay, everything was okay. And it's like, wow, okay, I can relax now. That's accepted, can go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very powerful in the face of that unconditionality.
Mhm.
You may also play with, and I did touch on it, I don't know, I'm losing track of the days, but I did touch on it yesterday or the day before or something, about the ability to also look in the mirror and gain some of what is found here as well.
Mhm.
And that's something that can be played with.
Let's see.
It's harder. It's a harder one because
Yeah.
it's not that unconditionality looking back, even though eventually it is.
Mhm.
I will say, eventually it is. Eventually it's exactly the same. What you experience today can exactly be found in the mirror too. But it's harder because you've got more conditioning of, is my hair right? Is this all of that to work through as well, which can be very powerful as well if you're willing to go there.
Yeah.
But it can be trickier. It's
No
certainly
judgment, but
there's a lot more rabbit holes we can
yeah.
get stuck into there.
No,
Yeah.
I had mirror, but I kind of look, I don't know, it was happened that I had mirror, it's like behind the computer. But yeah, I think I know what you mean. It's like nowhere to escape, and then it's like accepting happens.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.